Political correctness is killing comedy. That's a sentiment I may have agreed with like 7 years ago, when Louis C.K. lost tens of millions of dollars over a New York Times story and decades-old allegations. It's a comment maybe I would have agreed with when comedy movies themselves were basically stopped being made in Hollywood, like a decade ago, as the latest Marvel films were coming out. But it's not really a sentiment that I agree with anymore, and in fact, increasingly think is being used by people who aren't funny to complain about their own mediocrity. This monologue was really inspired by both the roast of Tom Brady that I watched on Netflix yesterday, and juxtaposed next to another Netflix star, Jerry Seinfeld. Seinfeld is hot off of his latest project, Unfrosted, where doing his media tour, he made some interesting comments about comedy and what is stifling it, according to him. Let's take a listen.
Oh, Cheers is on. Oh, MASH is on. Oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on. All in the Family's on. You just expected there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke, well, that's the end of your comedy. They move the gates, like in skiing. Culture, the gates are moving. Your job is to be agile and clever enough that wherever they put the gates, I'm going to make the gate.
So according to Seinfeld, the extreme left and PC crap has killed comedy. Now, maybe there would be something to that if it wasn't for the fact that the movie he produced, Unfrosted, is probably one of the dumbest, anodyne, and boring comedies that I've ever had the indignity to suffer through for research purposes of this monologue. What really revealed to me, though, is how dumb Seinfeld's take here is, especially with the release of the Tom Brady roast that just happened. Now, everyone should go watch this roast. I don't even watch football, and I got all the references. But what I really took away from watching it was how dead political correctness and so-called woke left limits on comedy are now. This is mainstream comedy roast on the most establishment of all places, Netflix, with people like Kim Kardashian and Ben Affleck in attendance. It's about as establishment as it gets. And with that, they allowed the madman Tony Hinchcliffe to sound off like this.
Tom is afraid of the Giants, which is why Kevin Hart is hosting tonight. All night, he's been using the stool that Aaron Hernandez kicked out from under himself. Kevin is so small that when his ancestors picked cotton, they called it deadlifting. Tom Brady is a patriot, which is surprising considering he looks like a Confederate fag. Clearly your ex-wife takes after you. I hear she's out there draining balls right now. People love you, Tom. You have the same fan base as Kyle Rittenhouse. Gronk, I'm happy you could take a break from writing Santa letters to be here today. I knew you were here when we were all out of chocolate milk backstage. You look like the final boss in George Floyd, the video game. Jeff is so Jewish, he only watches football for the coin toss. Nikki has such a bad eating disorder, the industry keeps shoving her down our throat. You might recognize her from her podcast appearances, specials, and winning the Triple Crown at Churchill Downs. You might recognize Kevin as the jockey that rode her, and that's Churchill Downs, the racetrack, not to be confused with what Jeff Ross looks like when he smokes a cigar. Sam J, an obese African-American lesbian, so by having here, Netflix checked off a lot of boxes. Andrew Schultz, I'm glad you took a break from watching YouTube videos on how to dap up black dudes correctly. Schultz's mom is a professional ballroom dancer, which means she's a stripper that talks too much. Bert Kreischer is a king. He looks like if the Tiger King and the Liver King only ate Burger King and had a liver that looked like Martin Luther King got beat up by Rodney King. And how about the appearance from the great Ron Burgundy, huh? A whale's vagina, which reminds me, Kim Kardashian's here. She's had a lot of black men celebrate in her end zone. Kim, word of advice, close your legs. You have more public beef than Kendrick and Drake. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Netflix.
So we have gay jokes, black jokes, Jew jokes, sex jokes, retard jokes. I mean, is it me or is it 2005? Am I watching The Office and is Comedy Central on? The best part, despite the fact that this was watched by millions, including Hollywood darlings, like I said, Kevin Hart, Ben Affleck, all these others, I couldn't even find a single think piece about how mean-spirited it was, or how Tony Hinchcliffe and Andrew Schultz and Bert Kreischer or Jeff Ross or any of these other people should never work again. If you need proof that the PC comedy era is over, that's the proof right there. And let's not forget the real sign that before Seinfeld even spoke about how dead this comedy is, Shane Gillis, who was literally canceled from Saturday Night Live for his jokes about Asians in 2019, was invited to host Saturday Night Live this year, 2024. And while he was there, he made jokes about people with Down syndrome. Now, there may have been a few tweets criticizing him at the time, but let's be real, nothing even close to the cancel brigade of the late 2010s. If anything, Shane's star is even brighter, and he is hosting shows with Schultz directly for Netflix, selling out massive arenas. Now, I don't write any of this to say that political correctness and woke influences on comedy were never a problem, only to say that I don't think it's really a problem anymore. And that people who rely on the crutch for why it's ruining comedy, maybe they have another agenda that they're trying to push. Like, I don't know, maybe the fact that Jerry is deciding to make these comments at the exact moment that his wife is donating huge amounts of money to pro-Israel protesters, and that he has been urging people to read Barry Weiss's The Free Press, and broadly has decided to now enter the fray as a pro-Israel voice since October 7th. Can't help but notice that Unfrosted co-star Amy Schumer also been doing the exact same thing lately. If anything, they appear to be the new snowflakes, crying about the fact that people disagree with them in public, and then blaming their middling performance or their products on the very forces they participated in when it was something that was on their side. Now, as for why any of this matters, it's because I've always thought comedy is like a decade ahead of where a lot of the media ends up. It's not a coincidence that comedy podcasts are really what birthed the podcasting format. It was the falling apart of the establishment comedy on controlled forces that gave rise to YouTube and podcast popularity, and that prestige show like ours, many others who entered that fray later on. So take from this what you will. I'll just take the victory and notice that what's really popular again today, and what even establishment forces are okay with, maybe that's a bright spot for the future. I mean, Krystal, how can you see that?
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.